हूँ रिचर यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ पाकिस्तान के वाइस चांसलर के साथ डॉक्टर नवीद मलिक इन पर्सन एट हिज ओन ऑफिस. डॉक्टर साहब वेलकम.
Thank you very much for visiting us.
डॉक्टर साहब कहाँ पे थे, क्या हुआ, किसने आपको इंस्पायर किया कि माशाल्लाह आप लोगों को इस मैथ्स वॉल्यूम पे पाकिस्तान में टीच कर रहे हैं?
Actually, one shouldn't say the single person's idea or credit, etc. It was a process. मेरी अपनी ज़िंदगी गुजरी है पंजाब यूनिवर्सिटी में. I was a staff member there at the Department of Computer Science. And then in the IT policy that was being shaped in 1999-2000, the concept of a virtual university cropped up, but nobody really knew what it meant and how things were to be fleshed out. Usme, there were some discussions and debates in Islamabad. I took part in them, and then essentially I was charged with the process of, or the task of establishing the university. The idea, the driving forces behind the university, you should understand that at that time, which is year 2001, we had only about 3.5% of our college age cohort, which is 18 to 23 or 18 to 25. Only 3.5% were actually enrolled in colleges and universities. Even today, that figure is, according to the Higher Education Commission, only about 8%. So 92% of that age cohort are not in higher education. Okay, so we have a long distance to go. But nonetheless, at that time, there was only 3.5% enrollment, and there was a critical shortage of qualified faculty. Okay? So no university really had PhD qualified faculty or senior professors, etc. So the virtual university was established basically to bridge these gaps, try to find talent within Pakistan. I wouldn't say that was part of the mandate that was given us. Try to find the talent, develop courses, use ICT as a force multiplier, and basically supplement the capacity of our existing institutions. So there were hurdles in front of us in terms of it was going to be distance learning, call it what you will, e-learning or whatever. And distance learning did not have a good press at that time. There was always a question mark in terms of, well, is it good enough, and who is the teacher and what happened, etc. Knowing these constraints, we developed programs and basically found the best people to develop a program. We did video lectures, and then we put them out on broadcast television and said, this is the new face of e-learning or distance education, and these are the gurus who are teaching the students. So when you see all the big names out there, and we didn't steal them from those from their parent institutions, because that essentially was our driving force anyway. So we just borrowed them, asked them to develop these programs, and then go back to their original institutions, and we would manage the delivery of the course and the distribution. The other aspect, or rather the critical factor, was making sure that the assessment was done in a transparent manner, and therefore the sanctity of our degrees, of the piece of paper that the university handed out, was kept at a high level. So we were easy entry, difficult exit universities. Okay?
That's nice.
The easy entry meaning if you have a second division, you're guaranteed a place. So there's no capacity issue. Exit, you do at if you work your way up through the ladder, come out through the top there. I think over a period of years, we have in a way established a very credible reputation in the market. Our students are they're accepted everywhere. I mean, we've got 2 foreign service officers whose first degrees from the Virtual University of Pakistan. Several of our graduates have completed their PhD programs in other universities from the West, from China, Korea, etc. And so generally they're doing all right. One of the things, and I think this is what should interest you, is that in a way entrepreneurship is very much a part of every program that we offer. It is very important to understand that when we deal with large numbers of students like we do at the Virtual University, we cannot produce an army of job seekers. Okay. So the whole objective was that, look, every time we're telling them, look, we bring education to your doorstep. You're not coming to the big city to get education. You're not paying top dollar for this education. It's very affordable. It's very convenient. It is flexible, etc., etc. But now, instead of graduating and then packing your bags and heading to the big city, try to do something where you are. Okay. So a few things happened along the way. A few years ago, the Punjab government, for example, established 4,000 IT labs in schools across the province. And lo and behold, and this was something that was told to us, when they advertised for people, computer science qualified, who would man these labs, they found our graduates all over the place.
Oh, that's
okay, because they were graduates right there,
Yeah.
and therefore they were working in their hometowns, they found employment, and suddenly they were productive. Other than that, many of them have gone on to establish their own businesses. We're at the moment in the middle of getting some data from them to find out who's self-employed, who is employed where, what their salary profile is like. And so far the information I have, over a 3,000 graduate sample, is very heartening. Okay. So the idea is that we at least tell our students that, look, we need you to become job creators. Okay. It's just not going to be possible with our burgeoning population for the public sector or even the private sector to provide employment to everybody.
And this is worldwide, by the way.
And that's worldwide.
Exactly.
Exactly. So learn how to stand on your own feet and learn how to do things yourself. And obviously, young minds are very, very creative. They're coming up with ideas and propositions, etc. And some of them they bounce them off us. Sometimes our students will offer to create a course and teach their own colleagues, etc. because they've learned new stuff, etc. Things like that. So the energy is there, and we need more and more mentors to channel them into those efforts. And I think that is where it becomes very relevant to our work. We already have signed up for a student startup business center. Okay. There is some funding available from Friends of Pakistan in America, and then from the Higher Education Commission, and the university has chipped in as well. But that is in its infancy. We'll have a little incubator type setup over here and try to facilitate people. My own concept here is that since the virtual university relies on ICT to deliver education and interact with the students, we should be doing all of this, all of the mentoring also in cyberspace. Okay, so I've asked our young faculty to try and envisage a virtual job fair rather than a physical job fair at a campus. We do a virtual job fair where we can
help.
You can help doing that, so we get the potential.
Experience on that.
Okay. So we get potential employers talking to these students. Interviews online. Excellent. So that's going to happen. I believe you've already told me that that there are virtual university students who are working with you. I also know anecdotally, not scientific research, output, that many of our graduates or even people who are still studying with us are actually doing their coding and stuff online and making money, and good money. Okay, the last person who wrote to me is that I make on average about $3,000 a month. Okay, and he's doing his coding, and he's still a student.
Oh, that's good.
Pakistan
has a talent.
It has the talent. And interestingly, we're finding that virtual university students also have the talent. As of yesterday, there was a competition on, I don't know, Huawei router or something like that, IT competition within Lahore. 30 universities, 2,300 students participating. And virtual university student is the first prize winner.
Oh, mashallah. Congratulations.
So, we keep getting this feedback and makes us feel sleep a little better at night.
It's the last
coffee is getting cold.
So after 13 years, how many high level numbers? I don't need a scientific number. How many people you have trained in this university?
We have about 40,000 graduates Today, 40,000 have graduated. On roll is about 120,000. Currently, in this semester, about 42,000 are actively pursuing their studies. So what happens is, out of that 120,000, these 42,000 are this semester. When this concludes, some will take a break, others will join. Okay, so it's flexible in terms of overall program duration, but within a semester it's very rigorous. Okay, so that's the way you do it. So we have about 40,000.
So how you deliver it? Is that on TV, in which certain channel they can watch it? And
okay.
Because it's subscription.
Well, number one, it's we have a very comprehensive learning management system developed in-house, which so the credentials are provided to each and every student. All the courses they are registered for are available within the learning management system. So they have their video lectures, reading assignments, quizzes, etc. Everything is happening there. Interaction with their tutors is happening through the learning management system. However, that's not the only mode of delivery. In terms of a knowledge seeker, and now I'm taking the broader term, not just the virtual university student, but anybody who wishes to acquire knowledge. We have our open courseware website. So anything we produce, we publish it openly. Okay, so anybody can learn. Okay, and we're not worried about credentials, etc. You want a degree, register with us, pay our fees, and take the exams. But if you want to learn, here is the material. You can purchase a DVD of each and every course that we produce, and a full 3-credit course comes on a single DVD. You can use compression, and that costs 60 rupees.
Oh, so very, very affordable.
That's the cost of duplication. That's the
Yeah.
cost of the DVD plus
No,
the
it's-
duplication.
it's-
That's it. The content we don't charge for. That's already published openly. Then we also operate 4 free-to-air broadcast TV channels. They are satellite TV. So Virtual University TV 1, 2, 3, 4. They are carried by many major cable operators across the country. So if you have a cable connection, then you get Virtual University channel right in your home. But that's where we started actually with broadcast television. But remember, television has its own limitations in the sense that you're at the mercy of the broadcaster. So whatever the university decides to broadcast, you're forced to watch that.
Yeah.
With the internet, the world is open. You watch what you want to watch.
Yeah.
So with our open courseware website, with our YouTube channel, we have a full channel on YouTube. So everything we produce, we publish. Virtual University subscribes to the open philosophy. Okay, and the idea is that look, all of this content that is producing is being done with public funds. The fees of the students are government money, and therefore the doors of our classroom are open. Okay, take a look inside. This is the level of course. This is the knowledge that we are imparting. You wish to learn, please go ahead. And that actually has done wonders in terms of our reputation. Because you can look at the courses. It's not something that's happening behind closed doors in terms of a student-teacher
And it's
interaction.
openly publicly available. You like
There
it,
it is.
take the first one, and then you get it enrolled, otherwise there's no need to enroll it.
Yeah, that's right. And the way I look at it, even for example, basic accounting. Okay, a shopkeeper needs to know basic bookkeeping. Go learn. We're not going to charge a fee for it because it's a practical skill that you need, and the material is all there. Okay, so go learn. That's basically how we work. So the delivery is DVDs, YouTube, open courseware, learning management system, any and all of these modes. But the formal students, they have to use the learning management system. Not for the videos, they can watch the videos anywhere. But the videos, they have to watch as per schedule. So that's where the formality comes in. So today's lecture is lecture number 23. You have to watch it today. We don't care whether you watch it at 5 in the morning or at midnight, but today. Okay. Availability is throughout the year, but in terms of a formal student, well, tomorrow there might be a quiz based on the material in that lecture today, so you better study it today. And then there is a constant question answer session that's happening. And they ask questions online. Our full-time staff, they stay, rather they work in multiple cities, but primarily in the middle of Lahore on Lawrence Road. We have another building, so 300-400 young people are sitting there. They are the.
That's how I'm going to ask a follow-up question, little bit tough question.
Yes.
In 13 years, we have this 120,000, 40,000 or something total numbers.
40,000 graduates.
Graduates.
Yes.
In 13 years.
Yes.
Okay. Why is that low in the 220 million people population?
Because we don't distribute degrees. You have to work for it.
Yes.
The very simple answer.
Yeah.
We are not a degree just distributing organization.
Yeah.
Although our costs are low, I know the cost is still a barrier. Nonetheless, look, internationally, the dropout rate in distance education hovers around 50%. Okay, so if we say we've got 40,000 graduates, it means that at least 40,000 would also have dropped out of the system.
80,000 total enrolled and then 40,000.
Yeah, and I would say actually it is even more who have gone dormant or fallen out of the system because of the rigor of the system. Okay, we're not going to water down our degrees. We're not going to, hand out credentials for no reason. So you have to work hard. And I think that in terms of outreach, we have enormous outreach. In terms of number of graduates, sure, we're not reaching 1 million yet. Okay, but we'll get there. We'll get there eventually. Remember that you're talking of a population that has a very poor, if I may use the word, a very poor K to 12 exposure. Okay, you're not preparing your high school graduates for university to become independent learners or critical thinkers, etc. Now, distance education by its very nature requires a student to bring his or her motivation with him.
Yeah.
Okay,
That is not there.
we're not in front of them. Okay,
Yeah.
we can't talk to them, we can't motivate them, etc., etc. So you have to have self-discipline. In fact, if you go to our website and go under the admissions tab, the first link you will find is virtual university right for you? And it's a questionnaire that you actually fill out, and it eventually gives you a score which says that, look, yeah, you're suited, or you need to strengthen a certain aspect of the way you work. The other aspect simply is that we've been so focused on academic quality and rigor and all of that, we've bad marketing people. Okay. We've been, we've not marketed ourselves very well. When people find out what we've done, they say, why don't more people know about it?
That's why I asked you this question.
Yeah. Why don't more people know about it? But look, in terms of impediments to access, first of all, we are using IT all the way. So, unless you have access to a computer and the internet, you cannot be a virtual university
Yeah,
student.
how about the 100 million people on the internet right now?
That's a figure. Where did you get that from?
Someone told me.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Okay, so there's your answer. Unless you say the 100 million includes this,
No,
and that is what it does.
That's 35 million. Someone told me that. I don't
That's
know.
35 million.
Okay.
Okay, that's
That's still a
35.
big number.
No, but that's far higher than people with access to the internet through computers. 100 million is out of the picture. It's
Okay.
10.
Okay.
It's a
Okay.
lot less. It's a lot less. Okay. So the question is, then out of that spectrum, how many are of college age? And then out of that, how many actually want to enroll in the university? So you come down to numbers if you look at the capacity of your higher education system in Pakistan, not virtual university. I mean, I'll have to look it up for you. I would not hazard a guess. But the figure you will find enrolled in universities all across Pakistan is far lower than what you would expect. Again, look, we can do some rough maths. All right, we like
Is
saying.
it quickly available?
I think we can take a look. ठीक है ना, ये अब हमारा नंबर आया ना, ये
जी
पंजाब यूनिवर्सिटी यहाँ पे है, ठीक है ना।
30,000.
तो अब ये देख लें कि ग्रैंड टोटल जो है ना
Yeah.
इज 1.29 मिलियन.
Yes.
दिस इज ऑल यूनिवर्सिटीज कंबाइंड पाकिस्तान की.
But that's in 1 year.
नहीं, दिस इज द एनरोलमेंट स्टेटस.
In 1 year.
हाँ, दे आर एनरोल्ड.
Yeah.
ठीक है ना. सो टोटल एनरोलमेंट ये है.
Yes.
दिस इज द कैपेसिटी ऑफ द सिस्टम.
Yes.
एंड वी से कि जी 50% ऑफ आवर पॉपुलेशन इज बिलो द एज ऑफ 30.
Yes. All
ठीक है ना. तो अब 50% बिलो 30 हो तो उसमें से आप निकालें कि जी एज लेट्स से 18 to 23 कितना प्रोपोर्शन बनता है. ठीक है. What you find is that the actual number is very low.
जी.
अच्छा, पंजाब यूनिवर्सिटी के इन्होंने 32,000 दिखाए हुए थे एनरोलमेंट. When we talk about BA का इम्तिहान,
जी.
BA का इम्तिहान लाख लोग देते हैं, उसमें से 30,000 पास होते हैं. ठीक है ना. सो ग्रेजुएट्स
कॉलेज से जो यूनिवर्सिटी का
जो बोर्ड का है या यूनिवर्सिटी का अपना एग्जाम है. सो एक्चुअल नंबर जो है ना, जब हम बात करते हैं कि जी कितने ग्रेजुएट्स हैं, तो ग्रेजुएट्स बड़े थोड़े हैं. इट इज ऑलमोस्ट लाइक द यूएस एंड द.
Thank you so much for shocking update, but that's reality.
That's the reality. देखिए, other countries, मैं अभी मलेशिया गया हुआ था 2-3 weeks ago. They're running at about 28% enrollment of the relevant age cohort in higher education. But they also have targets. We're going to hit 40% or whatever. South Korea 98% पे बैठा होता है, way out of anybody's league. But that's an anomaly. But by and large, 40% is like the target for a developed country. हम 8 पे बैठे.
We are at 8% and the developed country is 40%. There's
So
like a
on
5
average,
level.
on
On the average,
on
five,
average, oh.
yeah, like 20% in their level. How can we make it better?
मैं देखिए, there are two things. The first aspect is how do we increase the number of universities? To my mind, that's not the recipe.
Okay.
First, you fix your schools. The schools are providing input into the university. The graduate of the school is our intake.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. If you're providing zero grade K to 12 education, then universities will never be centers that create knowledge. They will still be rote learning and a degree offered on obtaining marks. which is not the hallmark of a graduate.
No.
A graduate is a problem solver,
Thinker.
a thinker. So now, just a few years ago, things that we do without thinking. There was like a rush to offer degrees in telecommunications. You know, the mobile sector was picking up. Something up, and check mobile telephony is coming in. Everybody needs telecom graduates. Those telecom graduates eventually ended up becoming linemen, climbing on a pole and wiring things up, which is not their task. You don't need a telecom degree for that. In the meantime, if you think about it, vocational trades have been terribly neglected in Pakistan. You need a veneer of engineer, but you need a bulk of vocational workers. And then there is the unskilled
Like a doctor,
level.
I think also in paramedical.
Exactly.
A doctor can really do
What we're doing is, we're producing in increasing numbers the doctors and the engineers. Nothing to back them up.
That's-
Everything below is unskilled and uneducated level.
That's very true.
Acha. Now, and so it's not a single recipe.
Yeah.
First of all, we need to fix K to 12 so that we produce. Look, in America, in the US where you live, a person who has done high school can get gainful employment, can set up a trade. Okay, they can become a carpenter, they can become a machinist, they can
Whatever
do
they like.
whatever they like. And only a small number will continue on to university.
That's true.
That is missing in our society at this level, at this time. Your first 12 years of education actually means nothing.
Why is happening and what we are doing to do that? What is stopping us to actually work on that?
The policymakers need to give it a long, hard look. There is nothing wrong with the syllabus it's written on paper.
Yeah.
Okay, but you take the syllabus and put it into a Cambridge external examinations class, which we call O-level and senior Cambridge, etc. And suddenly the same students are becoming critical thinkers and analysts, etc., going on doing well. You take them into the metric stream and you only have rote learning. Now, my own personal perspective, the assessment at the end of the year is at fault. If an exam forces a student to memorize and regurgitate factoids,
Myself.
that's all they will do, and that's all that the teachers will teach. I was advising Beacon House, Mrs. Kasuri, she started a new venture called Concordia Colleges for grades 11 and 12 only. And we tried our best to introduce some elements that would force students to think and actually understand what they were being taught. Believe you me, the feedback I got was, well, the students said, this is all very nice, but can you give us drill and practice on the board exams? Okay.
Yeah,
First,
on the degree.
because I need marks. At that time, they need marks because they need to get into professional colleges and the competition is very high. We've skewed the system so that we don't produce knowledge seekers. We produce mark seekers. Okay? So that's all that they're interested in. Now, if the assessment at the end of the day, which is the metric exams and the intermediate examinations, if they were to embody questions that require the application of knowledge, and then you get marks, okay, automatically the students will learn that way, and automatically teachers will have to teach that way. The syllabus is still right. Okay, that is one aspect. Another aspect which a friend of mine pointed out, and then I looked at it critically, and I tend to agree as well. The other biggest culprit is the prescribed textbook. Okay, for every subject, there is a prescribed textbook published by the provincial textbook board. So there's one book that the students are supposed to study, and the questions must come from that book, and they have to regurgitate answers from that book. Okay, again, the difference between the parallel system, the Cambridge external examination is, the syllabus is prescribed, the book is not. You want to learn physics, you want to learn Newtonian mechanics, study from any book. But what we expect you to learn is this. Okay, so it's outcome based. The textbooks need to be abolished, and the assessment needs to be made application oriented. Then what you will do is you'll produce a 12 years of schooling person who is actually capable of gainful employment or setting up some trade or shop on their own. That's recipe item number one. The second one is serious attention needs to be paid to the vocational trades. Okay, we need to just go out and set up, again, in the 60s there were the polytechnics, and then they fell into disarray and no attention being paid.
TEPTA, I think I heard.
TEPTA is an organization, is authority. that controls vocational education, but it is delivered by the GCTs, the Government Colleges of Technology. There's one down the road on Wadat Road, on this Raymond Road. The GCTs are few, not enough in number, and unfortunately this is a legacy of our subcontinental heritage and the British Raj, that working with your hands is somehow demeaning, it's not quite the same thing. So we need to honor just genuine effort. Okay? That will happen if we have sufficient numbers, but vocational trades need to be handled. Education needs to be delivered, and that the vocational trades will automatically thrive if you have a proper system of checks and balances as far as the application of those trades is concerned. Now, we are sitting in a room which has multiple electrical sockets, because I need like 3 computers and a printer and a phone and things like that. If you were to go and you were to check the phasing on these outlets, okay, because it is virtual university and our office, I know the phasing is correct because our engineers made sure that the live wire goes this way and the neutral goes that way. Try it in your own house and you will find that one plug is like this, the other one is like that. Because the electrician who did the wiring is not qualified.
It's true.
Okay. The same thing happens when we were young. My father constructed a house in Rawalpindi, in satellite town. There were only 2 or 3 companies who were qualified or certified to do the plumbing for the gas pipes. So we had to wait till they had time. They came in, they wired up the house, pressured the system, put a meter on, sealed it off and went away. Came back 3 days or a week later and looked at the pressure. If it's still holding and there's no leak, then they would bring in the gas people who would look at it, certify it and then connect it to the mains. Safety and qualified technicians doing the job. Now, your average plumber, the person who knows how to plug a water leak, is doing gas piping in the house.
Oh, that's good.
So,
very good said.
Now, if that becomes the pull, that look, you can't use a plumber to do gas piping in the house. It has to be a qualified technician.
Yeah,
then qualified technicians go to school, and then automatically, now this pushes the price level up a little bit.
No, but you want safety and
You
quality.
want safety, you want quality. Now, I think the Pakistani average public has the paying capacity. Okay, at this level when we are talking about a person who uses a HVAC person to come and install an air conditioner or electric, they have the paying capacity. Let's go for the quality and fill up this little middle, the gap in the middle. It says an architect creates a fancy drawing and there's no mason who can actually construct it. There doesn't limitation. Yeah. A friend of mine who was an architect, he said, look, when we were going to school, the bricks were irregular, but the mason was able to construct a perpendicular wall out of that. Now the bricks are regular and the wall is crooked. The skill is gone. The skill actually got exported. It went to the Middle East. So all of our skilled manpower left in the 70s. We haven't filled the gap and we've let the regulations slide. Okay. So that's number 2. First, fix the K to 12, provide vocational education in the middle. K to 12 creating good high school graduates means fodder for the university, so that the first day of classes is not necessarily the worst experience of a professor's life, and a class of young people just stares at him, doesn't ask a question, doesn't want to interact, that doesn't happen. You need people who challenge you. Now, in this day and age, and at the virtual university we live, ICT, knowledge is free. I had a good session with the IT university faculty, young faculty, a couple of weeks ago, so on the professional development. And we were talking, I said, look, your classroom has changed as compared to when I used to go into a classroom. When we went into a classroom, we were literally gods. Okay, if I made a statement, the student would say, no, Professor Saab ne ye kaha. And I was very lucky that in one of the major prescribed textbooks, I found an error. And I used to take that into class and look, print us all, error, erroneous statement, don't trust what I say. Okay, challenge it. Now, the world has automatically changed. All of knowledge of humankind is residing on the internet. Don't expect these kids to be silent if their worth is
No,
short.
of course not.
They already know that they're going to challenge you in class. So, number one, the role of the teacher changes. You can't be the sage on the stage anymore. You've got to be the guide on the side.
Yeah.
Okay, good question. I don't really know. Let's look for the answer.
Yeah, leading from a side, not in
Leading from the side now. Okay? And unless you're a guru, it will happen in a while. And so there's a challenge there, but we wish there was a challenge there. Okay, at the moment when students come out of that rote learning system into the university, there's still no challenge. It is still sir ye baat kar. Okay? So they are not knowledge seekers. We're not creating knowledge seekers. Back to closing the loop. You want an entrepreneur. Again, this was an issue that was discussed over there. That everybody says we need entrepreneurs, we need people working, etc., etc. I said, look, the concept of being an entrepreneur, of risking something, or setting up your own shop is great, but don't expect to set it up on thin air or on hot air. You need a foundation of knowledge to build a castle. Okay? They have to have that sound education. Then if the education is empowering, they are thinking young people. They can get into, okay, so I have now got an opportunity and I go and establish a business. The counter example I say is, well, don't think that you're an entrepreneur because you're going to invent a car that runs on water. Cars don't run on water. we know that. So, that type of thing.
So follow some basic engineering principle first.
The knowledge is necessary.
Yes,
okay. And then if the education is empowering and if you have a worldview that is always looking around and looking for opportunities, and that is actually what you need to train them in. There was a phase in my existence when I thought that we were dull, non-creative people. Till my elder brother, who's my guru in Islamabad, he was a plastic surgeon. He said, something, when you say that, we are not a creative people, just stop by the roadside for the guy who's repairing bicycles. So puncture laga, then side to better. Take a look at his toolkit. And what you'll find is 3 or 4 tools that he has devised himself to make his life easier. Okay? And they will not be tools that you buy at a shop. It will be something like a screwdriver welded onto a right angle because that's what he needs. Okay, so he's already devised, he's created something new. So we are there, but we need to formalize it, bring it back into the classroom, empower our young people, and then say, all right, the world is yours, go and capture it.
Dr. Naveed Malik, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us today on behalf of Pakistani Social Entrepreneurship Academy and its entire committee.